Let's talk NBL. Alex Caiafa is our man on the spot, and he's joining us again on TheInformer. Alex, let's talk about the boys from the West, the Perth Wildcats. You said to me they needed to get a bit of a hurry on. We'll get to the results on the court in a moment, but some interesting news.
Yeah, some very interesting news. So Bryce Cotton, the Perth Wildcats star, he has just been granted an Australian visa by the Australian government, which is...
So honorary Australian, but could be Australian.
So which, at the moment, he's not a dual citizen, but it is heading that way, which has been his dream. He's been playing in the NBL for the last, 7 years or so, and it's a huge deal. And at this current point in time, though, there's a bit of a dilemma. Because he's not a full Australian citizen, he's only considered a naturalised player. And coming into the Olympics, which is his goal to play for the Boomers, Australia are only allowed one naturalised player.
So who would that be?
So there are two now, which is Bryce Cotton and Matisse Thybulle, who's currently in the NBA playing with the Philadelphia 76ers. So Coach Brian Goorjian's got a bit of a selection dilemma on his hands at the moment.
Better, though, in Brian Goorjian's hands than anyone else.
Exactly.
Because he is one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting call, Bryce Cotton. What do you think he would add to the Boomers if he was chosen?
He adds a lot of scoring. That's what Bryce Cotton's known for. He's a playmaker, but he's a phenomenal scorer. He just knows how to put the ball in the basket, and he does it in so many different ways that it would mean, huge things for the Australian team. They become stronger on the offensive end, where they've had a few troubles here and there, and then, it just adds more firepower to those weapons.
Okay, last week you said to me, Perth, you don't know what's going on, the COVID season's really affected them, but suddenly the NBL Cup starts and they're winning.
They are winning.
And suddenly their season's looking that much better than last week. Yeah. So what a difference a week makes.
It does. So they've played 7 games now. They're sitting at 4-3, currently third on the NBL ladder.
So they've gone from the cellar.
Yeah, and they're sitting on top of the NBL Cup ladder. So the competition within a competition, they're sitting on top at the moment at 2-0, the only undefeated team. So they've come to play for this tournament, and we're starting to slowly see the Perth Wildcats team that we've become accustomed to.
They must be watching The Informer.
They must be.
On the other hand, though, the team that you were giving us huge raps for, Melbourne United, what's going on? Is it stage fright?
No, it's not stage fright. They were just outplayed. They struggled they were pretty much behind all game against the Wildcats, and the Wildcats come and beat them by 4 points to hand Melbourne United their first loss. They did bounce back in their next game, albeit they had to come back against the Cairns Taipans, who are currently sitting second last on the ladder at the moment. But they come back and won in brilliant fashion. They're missing Chris Goulding, though. He's a big out. He's the firepower. He's the scoring. He's the captain. He's the face of the franchise, and they're missing him a fair bit at the moment. So I think once they get him back, they'll start rolling a bit better again.
Now I know you still play the game, albeit the seniors, and you do a bit of coaching. But what is this about this bromance that you have about you and Josh Giddey? Is it because he makes you feel like it could have been you if you hadn't hurt yourself, done 3 knees?
I wish that could have been me, but no, he's a superstar. He's the real deal. He's going to be a special player. His court vision, his IQ on the court, just everything seems to come to him just really naturally. The game slows down for him when he has the ball. And then, last night against the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, he had 15 points, 7 boards, 9 assists. This is an 18-year-old kid we're talking about getting these stats. Some guys who are, heading into their 30s struggle to even get anywhere near that.
We're going to go and get his autograph just to make Alex feel a bit better. I noticed there's a documentary happening. Where'd that come from?
So it's going to be called Rising Stars, which is going to be really interesting. So it's going to go from last season's, next gen stars in LaMelo Ball, RJ Hampton, Terry Armstrong on their journey playing in the NBL, hoping to get into the NBA. And as we know, LaMelo Ball went with the number 3 pick in this last year's NBA draft. RJ Hampton went to the Denver Nuggets at pick 18. So those guys are in the NBA, and it'll just go through the story of their NBL season, the lead up to the NBA draft, and how they looked through the NBL season. It's going to be really interesting to see some behind the scenes footage of what it was all about and how they adapted to the Australian lifestyle
and what it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on that journey, fantastic stuff.
That's going to be released in cinemas in Australia on March 4th. So very awesome.
Basketball, climbing, sort of kicking not only goals but really making an impact, especially with that demographic that almost gave up on them but has rediscovered them in a big way, and that the sport is thriving. Speaking of a sport that's thriving, we know that COVID has created some problems in America with the NBA, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And although we normally would have had the big NBA showstopper event that they do, what they call the All-Stars game, it is going to happen, but it'll be a little bit later than normal.
Yep, so normally the All-Star game would happen around mid to late February, but because of a COVID ravaged season, they had to start the season a bit later. They've moved it forward to March 7th, which will be in Indiana. And it's all the usual suspects. Just before we go,
basketball started in Indiana.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
it did. So
it's going back to the
and I mean, there's been a bit of controversy surrounding the All-Star game this year, given it's in a COVID year. You know, a lot of the players have voiced their concerns this year. They don't want to play and travel at the same time to the one place. But it is going ahead, and you know, we've got the usual suspects there. You know, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Stephen Curry, the list just goes on. It's going to be a stellar
Freak. You got Simmons, you got LeBron,
you got the King.
Some seriously big boys playing amazing basketball. Look, great for joining us. You're back again a little bit later. We've got another opportunity to talk AFL, but right now we've done the NBL. And more importantly, if you want to know more about what's happening in basketball in Australia, join us on TheInformer or check out our Informer catalogue. We have some terrific programming. It's TheInformer.tv. Alex Caiafa back again a little bit later with a thing called the AFL. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, George.